Hey there, Canada, land of snow, politeness, and one seriously underrated history. We're about to dive into the wild ride that is the Canadian story, from ancient times to, well, Drake and maple syrup. It's a journey full of epic battles, political drama, and a whole lot of really cool canoes. We're talking about indigenous civilizations that thrived for millennia before European contact, fur-trading empires that would make your head spin, and enough political intrigue to rival your favorite TV show. So buckle up, grab some poutine, or, whatever snack you prefer, because this is the real story of Canada, told in 10 minutes or less. Let's go. Okay, let's rewind way back. Long before Canada was even a glimmer in a European cartographer's eye, this land, this vast and beautiful expanse was already home to a vibrant tapestry of indigenous peoples. From the Haida Gwaii in the west with their incredible ocean-going canoes and intricate totem poles to the Inuit of the Arctic, masters of survival in some of the harshest conditions on Earth, to the Haudenosaunee Confederacy in the east, with their advanced system of governance that actually influenced the U.S. Constitution. Indigenous cultures flourished across what we now call Canada. These weren't just scattered tribes, we're talking complex societies with their own sophisticated systems of government, trade networks that spanned continents, agriculture that sustained them for centuries, and spiritual beliefs deeply intertwined with the land itself. Many indigenous communities have oral traditions, passed down through generations, that preserve their history, laws, and stories. These oral histories are just as valid as any written document, and they paint a vivid picture of life before European arrival. Take the Anishinaabe people, for example. Their story of creation, passed down through generations, tells of how the world was formed on the back of a giant turtle. It's a powerful reminder that indigenous cultures have their own unique ways of understanding the world, and their perspectives deserve to be heard and respected. The birchbark canoe, a marvel of indigenous engineering, allowed for incredible feats of navigation and trade. These lightweight, durable vessels were essential for transportation, hunting, and fishing. Imagine paddling down a glassy river, surrounded by towering forests, in a canoe crafted with such skill and care. To truly understand this land, we have to start by acknowledging the people who called it home long before any European ship appeared on the horizon. Alright, let's fast forward a bit, to a time when Europe was obsessed with finding new trade routes, claiming land that wasn't theirs, and of course beaver fur hats. It was trendy, okay? Don't judge. Enter the age of exploration, and with it, a whole lot of drama on the Canadian stage. In 1534, this French explorer named Jacques Cartier shows up, plants a flag in what's now Newfoundland and is all like, yep, claiming this for France, sorry, not sorry. Thus began centuries of colonial struggle for control of this new world. But here's the thing. Indigenous peoples had been living, trading, and thriving in these lands for millennia, so when the Europeans arrived with their dreams of gold and glory, they encountered a complex web of existing relationships and alliances. The fur trade, in particular, became a driving force in early Canadian history. Beaver pelts were all the rage in Europe, seriously, those hats. And indigenous hunters and trappers had the skills and knowledge to navigate the vast wilderness and procure those furry treasures. This led to a complex interplay of cooperation and conflict. Indigenous nations formed alliances with both the French and the British, leveraging their position to gain advantages in trade and influence. But these alliances were often fragile, shifting with the political winds and the ever-growing demand for beaver pelts. Of course, it wasn't all about economics. There were clashes of culture, religion, and ways of life. European diseases decimated indigenous populations, and the pressure to assimilate into European society took a devastating toll on traditional ways of life. But amidst the chaos and upheaval, indigenous resilience and resistance never wavered. The arrival of Europeans in Canada wasn't a simple story of discovery or conquest. It was a messy, complex collision of worlds with lasting consequences that continue to shape Canada today. Okay, so we've got France and England vying for control of what's essentially a giant, resource-rich continent. What could possibly go wrong? Spoiler alert, a lot. Welcome to the OG season of Canada Colonial Edition, where the drama is real, the stakes are high, and the costumes are fabulous. Well, at least the powdered wigs or something. For over a century, these two European powerhouses duked it out for dominance in North America. They built forts, forged alliances with indigenous nations, often pitting them against each other, not cool guys, and generally made a right mess of things. It all came to a head in 1759 on the Plains of Abraham just outside Quebec City. The British, led by General James Wolfe, faced off against the French, commanded by the Marquis de Montcalm, in a battle that would decide the fate of New France. Picture this. Cannons booming, muskets blazing, men in woolen uniforms charging across an open field. It was chaotic, brutal, and surprisingly quick. Both Wolfe and Montcalm died in the battle, but in the end, the British emerged victorious. The Treaty of Paris in 1763 officially handed over control of New France to Britain, marking a turning point in Canadian history. France was out, and Britain was in charge, at least for now. But here's the thing about culture. It's a lot like a stubborn stain. You can try to scrub it out, but it tends to stick around. Despite being under British rule, French language, traditions, and identity remained deeply rooted in Quebec and other parts of Canada. This cultural duality, this ongoing tension and interplay between French and English Canada, would go on to shape the country's identity in profound ways. The British, for their part, weren't exactly known for their hands-off approach to colonialism. They implemented policies aimed at assimilating the French-speaking population, which, spoiler alert, didn't go over so well. The year is 1867, Queen Victoria is on the throne, top hats are all the rage, and a group of Canadians are sitting around a table probably drinking tea and thinking, you know what, we should start a country. And thus, Canada, as we sort of know it, was born. Okay, it was a bit more complicated than that, but the gist is this. 4 British colonies, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, decided to team up and form a confederation. It was like a political potluck, with each province bringing its own unique flavor to the table. Leading the charge was this dude named John A. Macdonald, Canada's first prime minister, and a man who, according to historical accounts, really liked his brandy. He had a vision for a united Canada, spanning from sea to shining sea, connected by a shiny new transcontinental railroad. This railway, by the way, was a massive undertaking, a feat of engineering that sliced through mountains, spanned rivers, and connected communities from coast to coast. It was like Canada's very own iron backbone, holding the country together and facilitating trade, communication, and the inevitable awkward encounters with moose on the tracks. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Confederation in 1867 was just the beginning. Over the next century, Canada would slowly but surely gain its independence from Britain, adding more provinces and territories along the way. So, the 20th century rolls around and the world decides to have, not one, but 2 world wars. Great timing, right? Canada, despite being a relatively young country, steps up and proves it's not afraid of a fight. In World War I, Canadian troops fought with incredible bravery and resilience, particularly in the Battle of Vimy Ridge. This victory, while costly, became a defining moment in Canadian history, a symbol of the country's coming of age on the world stage. World War II saw Canada once again answering the call, fighting in Europe, Asia, and the North Atlantic. They played a pivotal role in the liberation of the Netherlands, earning the eternal gratitude of the Dutch people, and a whole lot of tulips. But these wars, while showcasing Canada's military prowess, also exposed deep divisions within the country. French Canadians, facing conscription and feeling underrepresented in the military, grappled with their role in a British Empire's war. The conscription issue in particular highlighted the ongoing tensions between English and French Canada, reopening old wounds and sparking heated debates about national unity and identity. In the aftermath of the wars, Canada emerged as a different kind of power, not a military superpower but a moral one. They championed the idea of peacekeeping, sending blue-helmeted soldiers to mediate conflicts around the world. The post-war era also saw Canada embracing multiculturalism, opening its doors to immigrants from all corners of the globe. This influx of new Canadians brought with it a vibrant tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions, transforming the social fabric of the country. Alright, so here we are in the 21st century, Canada, land of breathtaking landscapes, universal healthcare, and a slightly unhealthy obsession with hockey. It's a country that's often seen as, well, nice. And don't get me wrong, Canadians are generally a friendly bunch, but there's a lot more to this country than meets the eye. Multiculturalism is woven into the fabric of Canadian society. From bustling metropolises like Toronto and Vancouver to smaller towns and communities, Canada is a mosaic of cultures, languages, and traditions. But this commitment to diversity hasn't come without its challenges. Canada is still grappling with the legacy of its colonial past, working towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples and addressing systemic racism and inequality. Speaking of Indigenous peoples, their voices are finally starting to be heard on a national stage. From land rights to cultural revitalization, Indigenous communities are reclaiming their narratives and demanding justice for past wrongs. Politically, Canada leans towards the progressive side with a focus on social welfare, environmental protection, and of course, debating the merits of putting milk in bags. Seriously, it's a thing. On the global stage, Canada is known for its peacekeeping efforts, its commitment to international cooperation, and its, shall we say, unique sense of humor. From Drake and Ryan Reynolds to Schitt's Creek and yes, even those Canadian tuxedo memes, Canada has a knack for producing pop culture that resonates around the world. So there you have it, the surprisingly epic, occasionally awkward, and always evolving history of Canada. From ancient nations to frozen battlegrounds to meme-worthy moose, Canada's history is way more than just nice. It's fierce, complex, and still unfolding. As Canada continues to grow and change, one thing's for sure, this is a country worth paying attention to. Because beneath the surface of politeness and maple syrup lies a story that's as wild, as fascinating, and as awe-inspiring as the land itself. Thanks for joining us on this whirlwind tour of Canadian history. Now go impress your friends with your newfound knowledge.